So hi there, I'm Diane Callahan, developmental editor and YouTuber quotidian writer. I'm here with Jordan Riley Swan.
That's
author.
me.
That's you! And we have The Heart's Bidding here, his newest novel, a family drama, the healthy side of sweet romance. And it's about a girl with stage fright learning to become an auctioneer with the help of a hunky guy, of course.
Mm.
And something that's unusual about Jordan, as you can see, is that he's a guy writing romance, which isn't something that I come across too often. So I wanted to ask him some of his experiences about that. And so, Jordan, if that is your real name, which I know it's not, why did you decide to go with like a more androgynous pen name?
Well, I actually chose an androgynous pen name because I knew I was going to be writing in two genres most of my career. I was going to be doing some romance and I was going to be doing some fantasy. Now, there'll be some crossover paranormal fantasy and things of that nature. But if you do any research online, one of the first things you'll see is that there have been studies made where male named authors in the romance genre sell up to 40% less than the female authors in the same genre. And the coin flips, and it's the exact same thing in fantasy. Female names tend to sell a little worse than the male name. In fact, I think, maybe don't quote me on this, but I think J.K. Rowling was advised to use J.K. Rowling specifically because of that built-in a stereotype or prejudice. I don't know. It's just, but it is part of the industry. So I thought, well, what'll happen is if I go with an androgynous name and it's a sweet romance, automatically people are going to assign the gender they want to see on it. And the same thing with fantasy. In fact, my first RWA event, and when I went to the Nationals, as I ran into a few people who I'd been talking to on Twitter, they had assumed that I was a girl until they met me in person. And it was exactly what I wanted to see.
Yes, it's right. And I actually assumed that too when you first reached out to me. As like I just totally had that assumption because your icon is like a little typewriter J, so there's just like no other clues.
From that typewriter right there, actually.
Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
cool. Love
Yeah,
that.
took a picture of it because I knew if I put this bearded face as the, it may actually. Well, I don't care what genre it is. You look at this, you might not buy the book.
That's not true. But what drew you to romance as a genre in general?
Okay, well, not to sound like a mercenary, but when I first started researching self-publishing, the number one category by far was romance. So I thought, okay, I'm going to write a romance series because apparently rapid release romance is where the money's at. And then I started researching the genre and fell in love with it, but not nearly as much as when I went to that first RWA event. Um, as anybody who writes knows, it is a lonely business. It's a lonely thing to do. You just, it's not a group activity. Well, I'd never been to a conference or a seminar before. So my first experience with any writing seminar was the Nationals in Denver about 2 or 3 years ago for the RWA. And it was like finding my tribe. I swear I went, it was emotional. It was, they women just included me immediately. And I fell in love, not with a person, but I fell in love with the romance writers. So I decided I am killing the mercenary. This is no longer about what market to reach, and it's no longer about that anymore. It's about, I want to tell some stories that these women who I have fallen in love with will appreciate, read, and I can join them on that stage together.
So wonderful. And you met like a
It
lot
is
of,
wonderful.
yeah, you met like a lot of other romance authors when you were there, right? Like I can't remember, the Lady Sherlock author.
Sherry Thomas. I met Sherry Thomas there, and she was one of the people who was like, "Oh, I thought you were a girl," and I'm like, "Okay, that's, it's not an insult. That's exactly what I wanted to see. It was perfect words." Beverly Jenkins, and then some of the other names escape me right now, but there was several people, and nobody. I don't care how big of a name they were or how little of a name. Nobody snubs anybody. Nobody's like, well, I'm better than you because I write this genre, or I'm a New York Times bestseller. No, the girls were the most plain spoken, beautiful women I've ever met in my entire life. So,
Oh, that's so nice.
oh, yeah.
Then so
Diane will, I know what's happening right now. Anybody who's watching this is like, okay, is this a character? This guy is hamming it up. And Diane will know at this point, this is who she's had to deal with for how many, a year and a half now? Yeah,
Yeah,
this
yeah, it's true. No, this is this is 1,000% his real personality. So it's so true. But I mean, so how did you, when you went to like the Romance Writers America conferences, like what is it like to be like the only dude in the room for the most part? I'm sure there's a few others, but
intimidating. It's absolutely intimidating at first. When you walk into the place, it's I hmm, a writer should be able to come up with a real good metaphor or something, and I'm
on
drawing
the
a blank.
spot.
When you walk into the place, and it is a sea of women, and maybe an occasional guy. I met 2 or 3 male authors there, but it is probably a 500 to 1 ratio, maybe at least 300 to 1 ratio. The first thing is it's intimidating because I'm entering their space. This is a place where women come to not be, hit on or have testosterone thrown on them or things mansplained to them, which actually has led for a funny moment. Um, the it's there, it's help me out here. It's there,
Yeah, it's just, it's comfortable, right? Like it's just
it's
like you
there.
don't
It's
have to worry about anything. Yeah, for sure.
So I assumed, well, that I need to not make any waves. That's the first thing. And I'm not going to talk to people. I don't want to force myself on people. I talked to one of the YouTube personalities who regularly goes, and before I went, and I'm like, is it cool if a guy goes? I don't want to go there and make people uncomfortable. I don't want to do that. And she said, as long as you don't mansplain anything, you're going to be all right. And I think that's good advice for any men in any position. Just don't mansplain, and things will be fine. But as soon as I got there, I'm in line to get the tickets for the conference. Is I literally just drove out on a whim. I drove from Ohio to Denver, and it was one of those deals where, do I have the time? Yes, I have the time. Fill the gas tank up, throw clothes in the back of it, and drive. So I buy the tickets when I get there, and I'm in line. And this night, the conference hasn't even started yet. And the lady in front of me and the lady behind me immediately engaged me in conversation. And then it just took off from there. Everybody wants to talk because we're there, and we all have one thing in common: gender be damned. We are all writers, and there's a unity in there that I can't describe. But that broke the ice for me. And then one person became 3, and then 5, and then everybody would talk to you. But the most important thing as a male and the RWA event is you get the bathrooms to yourself, and that's
Nice. Yeah.
nice. Okay, so fire the next question at me, Diane.
So have you noticed any differences in like male authored versus female authored romances that you've read, or between like what you write and like what other like authors write?
Well, because I don't think there's hmm, you know, we should tell everybody that you actually gave me these questions in advance so that I would be prepared for today. And apparently,
No, I mean
I
it's a
read
tough
them and
question.
they don't even stick. They don't even stick. Okay, what was the question again?
Well, I guess I'm wondering if there's any difference between like male authored versus female authored like romance. Like if you notice that when you're reading or like listening to stuff, and like I mean, so everybody's so different, right? But like I don't
Right,
know
right.
a lot of things, but
I am certain if we talk to the girls who really study that kind of thing, they'll say yes, there is a difference. Men are much more visually based, women are much more emotionally based. Um, but in the writing, I only, not to out myself, but I only ever read the women writers. I didn't actually read any of the guy writers, and I think that was partly because I didn't want to duplicate what they were doing. I wanted to write based on based on what the best of the industry were doing. But like I said, when I first started, it was mercenary like. Okay, I'm reading specifically to the best of the genre and doing my research. It became organic that I sort of fell in love with the situation, and then it wasn't reading to figure out how they're doing it and what they're writing. It was reading to, oh, isn't this a beautiful story?
that is good. And yeah, something I found really interesting with the heart spitting is that it is like from a female POV, like just the female POV, and like, and it's really well done. Like, cause if I had read it and not known you were a guy, I don't think I would have thought you were a guy, because it's
Yes.
written in a way, yeah, it's written in a way that's like very empathetic and towards like women. Because sometimes I do read like, male authored like female characters, and I can tell very much that it's by a guy because I have a certain worldview of things, but yeah, like I very much
Have,
related to Kay and her
have you
shyness.
have you ever heard of the subreddit Men Writing Women?
Yes, I
Okay, it
do.
shows up on Twitter every so often as well. My nightmare and it is an actual, my nightmare is being on there, seeing something I wrote, men writing women. I live in absolute fear of it. So I really make conscious effort choices to be to empathetic towards what it would be like to be a woman in a situation. Plus, um, it also helps that you first write a character, and then the gender is not as important as the character itself. And I've put myself in that same situation multiple times. I asked, what would I do? How would I feel if this happened and no one's watching? But it also helped that I had gone to RWA where I was able to, for the first time, just let my emotions go. If I wanted to cry, I could cry. If I wanted to take a time, I'd still hit in the bathroom. Let's be serious. I'm still a guy enough that I didn't want to cry in front of anybody. But if I wanted to laugh at something, I laughed at it. When you're a guy, most of your relationships tend to be testosterone driven, and most of my friends are gamers, so they're not the most empathetic towards the emotions. So being able to just release them willy nilly, oh my God, it was so releasing, all the way.
That's so nice. And like, so like, I think that the heart spitting does have like a lot of that emotion in it too, because it is really, it's that big thing about stage fright and her kind of overcoming those emotions. And then the romance is sort of secondary, which is sort of why we've like called it like, it's like a family drama or a contemporary drama with some of those like sweet romance elements, even though that's like, it's an important part of the story, but it's like not the only part of the story. But do you feel like you relate to Kay and her stage fright problems?
Well, I read during a speech class during college. I didn't read, but one of the things they talk about is public speaking is lower on the fear scale than, or is higher on the fear scale than being burned to death, which means there are people who would rather walk through a fire than they would give a public speech. And I'm one of them. This right now is terrifying me as we do this. If your face wasn't on here helping me feel more comfortable, we all right, don't let your ego out of the control. Um, I wouldn't do it. I just, as people who we've worked with will know at this point, I'm deeply personal, and I'm super shy, and this is making me incredibly nervous. So that's real easy for me to write. And the rule is what? When you first start out, write what you know. And I know two things. I know to be scared of public speaking, and speaking even just to two or three people starts to make me nervous. And I'm also scared of, or what I also know is auctions, which I think is going to segue nicely into one of your other questions.
That is, although that is like, I want to do like a separate little interview segment on the auction world.
Well, then click the link below to
Below,
get to that video. Is
video. Yeah,
that what you
exactly.
YouTubers say?
Yes, that is, but I never say that in my videos. Never. Okay. But yeah, so the auctioning aspect of it is really like, it is like obviously from the gavel on the cover, it is a
Hmm.
big part of it and
Oh,
things.
no, ooh, over here.
Oh wait, over there. Yeah, your book tree of things. But yeah, this is like, I wanted to focus on the romance aspects for this, just because for the sake of I guess, having a
Continuity within this video that we're trying to do.
between this one video, okay? But
You're
yeah,
recording this, right? Otherwise, I'm gonna look like a complete idiot if we have to
mm,
do this again.
no, I know it is recording, hopefully.
Okay, hopefully.
These first
How
videos are gonna
how
be
many?
rough,
They're
guys.
gonna be rough. Yes. How many YouTube videos have you done, and how many rules have I broken in the last 5?
Oh my God. Well, I've never shown my face on a video, so this is gonna be
Oh.
a first. And so like I can't watch it because I'm gonna be like stuck frozen on this face as we're doing it. But yeah, like, so the last big question I want to ask you is
Hmm.
like, if you have any advice for other men looking to write like romance.
Stay out of my genre.
Oh,
It's
oh.
mine. No, if I, wow, find your local group of writers, whether it is fantasy or what have you, and get a tribe together. I joined after the RWA. I found out that there was a local chapter for the called the COFW, Central Ohio Fiction Writers, and the first thing I did was join it because it is a lonely profession. You're doing this on your own. It is so nice to have someone. and start talking. You talk about it with your friends, obviously. Of course you do. Like, I'm writing this book, and they're like, oh, nice. And you see their eyes glaze over, and then well, we're talking about what I want to talk about now. So we're back to our conversation. You start talking to them, like, I'm having a problem with the darkest night of the book I'm working on now, and he doesn't have a good enough flaw, or he's an unlikable character. And everybody's a writer's like, oh, yep. And then they'll give you advice, and it's so find a community. Absolutely find a community. You will find that the women writers, if you don't mansplain things and you're not a big giant jerk, and also you don't hit on them, you will find that the romance writers will absolutely open their arms for you every single time.
Oh, that's so wonderful. I love to hear it.
Yeah, it's true, which makes it even better.
It is. And yeah, and so thank you for getting over your fears to do our very first interview on
Right. I'm finally relaxed. I'm ready to go. When's the interview start?
No, this is the end of it.
This was it?
I have to explain the spiel.
Oh, you gotta sell the book now, right?
I gotta sell it. It's available on Amazon and paperback.
I can't reach it.
And in an ebook and an audiobook by the talented Exy Sands. Is this news to you? But and we appreciate every single one of our readers. And
tune in next time when we have matching outfits. We're gonna actually coordinate.
I will send you a dress to wear. This is a dress, so that is
okay.
Not a
sweater. How about I send you a T-shirt and then we'll do that instead.
We'll do that.
Okay.
Instead. But yeah, we can't wait to show you the stories that will bloom in our story garden. So.
Oh, what a tagline! Perfect.